Well, we are just 2 days away from Super Bowl Sunday. Not only that, but later tonight it'll be the opening ceremony for the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan, Cortina, Italy. I am looking so forward to watching that tonight and looking forward for the next 2 weeks of watching the Winter Games. But we still have the Super Bowl 60 out in Santa Clara, California to be played on Sunday, which this year's lead out program will be for the Super Bowl will be the Winter Olympics. So last night was also the NFL awards. As you know, Matthew Stafford won league MVP. That Jackson Smith Najiba, or however you pronounce his name, for the Seahawks, won Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year went to Myles Garrett, who won it for the second time in his career, as he broke the record for most sacks in the season with 23 of them. And Christian McCaffrey won Comeback Player of the Year. Mike Vrabel won Coach of the Year, and so on and so forth, and, all of that. But last night, we got to see the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame. As this year, they elected 5 players into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As you know, it's the whole Bill Belichick got snubbed from the Hall of Fame has got so many headlines, and so did Robert Kraft. As many people say they got snubbed because of the cheating scandals, the whole Spygate, and then Deflategate. And then for Robert Kraft, after the team won Super Bowl 53, he was a part of a sex trafficking scandal. I don't believe that he was ever convicted or anything, but that definitely would look bad on him. And these two, all these scandals that the Patriots have been a part of during their dynasty is what probably would prohibit why Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft got snubbed for the Pro Foot. But I know, Robert Kraft, it was in a massage parlor, I believe, but that's why. But last year, remember, they selected only 4 players to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I was quite shocked about that, when there was a lot more who I think were worthy. There were more that should have been inducted last year that were worthy of it. But this one was going to be quite a competitive class for first-year eligibles. And we have we had 2 first-year eligibles get in, and 2 modern finalists who've been retired for at least who have been eligible for more than 1 year but less than 25 years. And let's start with the most obvious. That was none other than quarterback Drew Brees. He spent his first 5 seasons with the San Diego Chargers from 2001 all the way to 2005. Then he went and signed with the New Orleans Saints in 2006. And if you don't remember, he only played in 1 game as a rookie in 2001. That was against the Kansas City Chiefs. And then he became the Chargers starter in 2002, where he started all 16 games, but then his team went 8-8. In 2003, midway through the season, he was benched in favor of Doug Flutie. And Flutie started a couple of games that year, and then they gave it back to Brees, and the Chargers ended that year 4-12. Then the Chargers would select Eli Manning with the first pick. He rejected him. They traded him to the Giants in exchange for their first-round pick from 2005 and for Phillip Rivers. And when Phillip Rivers held out at training camp that year, Brees took over, and ever since then, it was lights out. He led the Chargers to a 12-4 record, got them to the playoffs where they lost. And then in 2005, he led the Chargers to a winning record. He didn't lead them to the playoffs, but he had a pretty impressive record. Then he suffered that shoulder injury against the Denver Broncos on New Year's Eve of 2005. And his shoulder injury was projected to be career-threatening injury, where it could have ended his career. So with that being said, the Chargers justifiably let him walk in free agency. He goes to New Orleans, and he had a great career. He led New Orleans to a Super Bowl 44 championship, where he also won the Super Bowl 44 MVP. He was a two-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year in 2008 and 2011. He was the NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 2004, a 13-time Pro Bowl selection, a first-team All-Pro in 2006. He was a 7-time passing yards leader. He had 5 career 5,000-yard seasons, and that is most all-time, as he first did it in 2008, where he came just 16 yards short of breaking Dan Marino's record. Then 3 years later, when he won, that year he won Offensive Player of the Year, and then he won Offensive Player of the Year again 3 years later in 2011, when he this time broke it. He had another 5,000-yard passing season in 2012, the year the Saints had a horrible historically the worst defense of all time, but also there was the bounty scandal that happened with him with the Saints, and the Saints, he has more 5,000-yard pass seasons than any quarterback. He had 10,551 pass attempts, 7,192 pass completions, 571 touchdown passes, 80,358 passing yards, a 98.7 passer rating, 752 rushing yards, and 25 rushing touchdowns. So, remember, Drew Brees did most of this with New Orleans, because the beginning of his career with San Diego, he wasn't really happy there, because the Chargers were more of a run football team with LaDainian Tomlinson, and that limited what Drew Brees could do. So he comes to New Orleans and under Sean Payton, and Sean Payton lets him light it up. And that's what made Drew Brees. And now, after retiring following the 2020 season, he is now going to be elected to the 2006 Pro Football Hall of Fame. The next second-year eligible man was Larry Fitzgerald. He played his whole 17-year career, 2004 to 2020, with the Arizona Cardinals. He was a 2008 first-team All-Pro, 11-time Pro Bowl selection. In 2005 and 2016, he was the receiving leader. He was the receiving touchdown leader in 2008 and 2009. He was a part of a 2010's NFL All-Decade team. He had in 2008, he had the postseason to remember. He had the most receiving yards in a postseason with 546 in that stretch. He had the most receiving touchdowns in that same postseason with 7, and most notably the one he scored in the Super Bowl against the Steelers. He had 1,432 receptions, 17,497 receiving yards, and 121 receiving touchdowns. And when you look at Larry Fitzgerald, he carried that Cardinals team on his back through that 2008 postseason. He did, and sadly, it's well forgotten because of the fact that the Cardinals ended up coming up short in the Super Bowl that year. But and then that 2015 postseason run, he once again helped lead them on his back. The Cardinals played so great in that. Larry Fitzgerald played so great, and he had such a great, successful career. And I do believe, he's second all time in a lot of receiving positions, only to the great Jerry Rice. But Larry Fitzgerald had a great career. Sadly, he never got a Super Bowl, but guess what? He is now a Pro Football Hall of Famer. The third man was Carolina Panthers linebacker Luke Kuechly, who spent his whole 8-year career with Carolina. He was the 2013 Defensive Player of the Year, the 2012 Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was a 5-time first-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowl selection. In 2012 and 2014, he led the NFL in total tackles. He was a part of the 2010s All-Decade team. He had 1,092 tackles, 12 and a half sacks, 18 interceptions, 66 pass deflections, 7 forced fumbles, 9 fumble recoveries, and 2 touchdowns. And he notably, and one thing he did was he helped lead Carolina to their appearance in Super Bowl 50, where they would lose to the Denver Broncos just a decade ago. Many people would have thought it would have took a while because of the short career, like it took Patrick Willis a while because he had such a short NFL career. But just like Patrick Willis, who got inducted last year, he well deserved it this year, Luke Kuechly. Then you have Adam Vinatieri, the kicker. He spent his first 10 seasons with the Patriots, where he played in 4 Super Bowls, and he won 3 of them. And 2, most notably, for his game-winning field goals. The one he had in Super Bowl 36, and the other one he had 2 years later in Super Bowl 38. As he was arguably the best kicker in NFL history. And then he went to Indianapolis in 2006, where he won another Super Bowl. And he was injured in their Super Bowl run in Super Bowl 44. But he was a 4-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowl selection. He was the 2004 NFL scoring leader. He was a part of the 2000s All-Decade team. He has the most career points in his career with 2,673. Most career field goals made. Most consecutive career field goals made with 44, as he went 44 attempts without missing a field goal. And he has the most field goals made in a career. Adam Vinatieri, just like when Morton Anderson finally got the Hall of Fame back in 2017, it's good to see Adam Vinatieri get in as well. And then there was out of a senior finalist that made it was Roger Craig. He spent his first 8 years with the 49ers, 1 with the Raiders, and his final 2 with the Minnesota Vikings. Roger Craig, he rejuvenized the running back position in the 80s. Drafted by the 49ers in 83, he played in 3 Super Bowls, and he won all 3. In his first Super Bowl, he became the first running back ever. He played it as a fullback instead of a running back. He became the first the first player ever to score 3 touchdowns in a Super Bowl. And then his next 2 Super Bowls that he won, he was really successful in them. But as you know, he was a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He was the 1988 NFL Offensive Player of the Year. He was also a first-team All-Pro in 1988. He was a 4-time Pro Bowl selection. He ran for 8,189 rushing yards. He had 566 receptions and 4,911 receiving yards, and he had 73 touchdowns. And his most memorable was his 1985 season, where he became the first running back to ever rush for 1,000 yards and receive for 1,000 yards in the same season. Even though guys like Marshall Faulk did it later on, and you see guys that both rush and receive out of the backfield, Roger Craig was the first true one to ever do it. And this was a long time coming. And what really, I think, cost him the Hall of Fame, many say, is, number one, he played on a team where guys like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice got all the love. They got all the attention and stuff like that. That was probably one reason. And another reason, too, was He had the fumble in the NFC title game against the Giants that cost the 49ers a chance at a three-peat. But you got to admit, Roger Craig deserved the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So with that being said and done, next year will be a pretty competitive 2027 class. Here are the 2027 eligible ones. First year will be Ben Roethlisberger, which is a lock. Rob Gronkowski, I think, is a lock. Adrian Peterson, which I think is a lock. And then you got guys like Antonio Brown that I think was a great player, but what will definitely hurt him was his attitude and the way he walked out on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That might definitely hurt him. But let me know what you think. Who do you think got in that deserved it? Who do you think should have got in? And who do you think really, out of this class, did not deserve the Hall of Fame? Let me know what you think in the comments below.